Hey there everybody, it's Mike DiLisio, and it's time for the top 10 solo games of 2023. I think I've got a lot of different types of games here on this list, some solo only, some variants of multiplayer games, but let's just go ahead and get started right away. My number 10 is Race to the Raft, which is a follow-up to the Isle of Cats, and this is a straight-up puzzle game where you are trying to direct a number of cats from starting locations on an island, and they are trying to escape from rapidly encroaching fires to a raft to get off of the island. You're doing this by playing cards which represent paths of different colors, and the different cats will move on those different paths. And so you're having to do this, try to most efficiently move the cats along these paths while still avoiding getting engulfed in flames. A really solid puzzle game. My number 9 is Scholars of the South Tigris. This is a big Euro game from Garphill Games, and I have found that many of their titles, actually almost all of them, have solo modes that I really appreciate. They do have a little bit of a learning curve because this is a heavier game, but it's a card-driven system, and once you get the system down, it is very effective. It nicely gives the feel of the multiplayer game, and it's just a great game to begin with. So Scholars of the South Tigris came out late this year, but you should really check it out if you get a chance. My number 8 is Trailblazers, which is a path building game, and it is a game that has so many different types of solo variants within it. This is a multiplayer game as well, but you can play the game solo with so many different scenarios and setups. It is a game that you will not run out of content for. Very clever, where you're trying to build multiple different paths at the same time, and it's kind of got a pipe system. If you've ever played like Pipeline or Curious Cargo, same designer for this one. My number 7 is Unmatched Adventures. So this is a whole new way to play Unmatched from Restoration Games, which is a card battling game. In Unmatched Adventures, it is now a cooperative game where you are facing off against a big bad. And so I really like the system that they use to implement in this version of the game. And it makes me excited that you can play with any of the characters within this kind of game system. And so it really livened up Unmatched for me, and it makes it something I'm looking forward to continuing to explore. My number 6 is Scoventier. I had the pronunciation down when I did the review, but it's been a little while. So Scoventier is a game by Morten Monrad Peterson, who has done the automas for many of the Stonemaier games. This is his first design, and it is really interesting. It is kind of a circular board made up of cards, and you are trying to escape or avoid being caught by a baddie that's out there on the board. And you're doing this by playing cards that represent different characters that are helping you. This is a multiplayer game, but to me, this really feels best as a solo game. I really like the look and the feel of Scoventier. My number 5 is Come Sail Away from Sashi and Sashi Games. This is a game where you are trying to most efficiently place passengers into a luxury liner in the early 19th century. And so it is an efficiency puzzle, and I love efficiency puzzles. And this one is so simple to learn and so difficult to do well. I love that in a solo game where, it doesn't take you a long time to figure out, oh, this is what I need to do. Now, how do I do it well? That's the trick. I still have not cracked the code on this one, and that's a good thing because I want to keep coming back and playing it. My number 4 is Siberian from designer Shadi Torbey, and this designer is known for having what are called the Omniverse system of games. There have been many games in this line. You've got Onirim, which was one of probably the most well-known, and they all kind of play around with different type of mechanisms. And in Siberian, This is a card-driven game. It's mainly hand management, but what you're trying to do is play out these cards that represent robots that have different powers that are going to allow you to repair machines. And so this one is a really satisfying game. It flows very smoothly. The last game from the designer was one I did not particularly love, so I was thrilled to see that it came back so strong for me this year. Siberion is a game I really like. It has a bunch of modules you can add to amp up the difficulty and the replayability. Number 3 is in a line of games that are called 4-1 from designer Reiner Knizia. There were 4 that were released, and the one that made my list is Galactics. And so this is a game that is built around rolling dice, and it's a push your luck type of game where you are rolling dice and trying to move up different tracks on the board with little spaceships. So basically you're trying to fly your spaceships along these. Well, it's not a super thematic game at all. It's a very abstract game, but it is also very, very fun. And it starts off, this whole kind of system of games, these 4-1 games, it starts off with a very basic mechanism. Do this. It's like 1 or 2 things you have to think about. But you progress through a book of challenges. So there's a book of challenges that go through different chapters, and every chapter is going to add something new, some new kind of twist. And so this is a game that really ramps up, and by the end of the kind of challenge book, you are playing a game that has a whole lot of stuff going on and presenting a really, really tremendous challenge. I really, really like this one. The other games in the line are good too, but my favorite of them all was Galactics. My number 2 is a game that came out right at the end of the year from Chip Theory Games, and it's called 20 Strong. It actually is a game system, 20 Strong is, and it came with its initial launch with 3 titles. You had a new IP called Solar Sentinels, and then they had versions of the 20 Strong system for Too Many Bones and for Hoplomachus Victorum. And it's all driven around dice, and that's why it's called 20 Strong. You have 20 dice that you're going to be using. And all of the games kind of follow a similar structure, right? So the game system is consistent throughout the 3 games, but there's subtle twists, sometimes not so subtle twists, that tie in thematically with the different IPs. And so playing 20 Strong, Too Many Bones definitely gives you the feel of that. And playing Victorum definitely gives you the feel. And so I am so intrigued and excited about how this system is going to evolve. And keeping that core system of the die rolling is a really solid one. And I'm very excited to see where it's going to go. Finally, my number 1 solo game of 2023 is Legacy of You from designer Shem Phillips and Garfield Games. Legacy of You is a solo-only campaign-style game, and I just think it's brilliant. I absolutely love the way the game plays out. So what you're trying to do is you are trying to navigate a number of different things that are happening at the same time that you've got to deal with. Along the top of your player board, you've got barbarians that are going to be attacking you. And if you do not handle them and deal with them, you're going to very quickly get overrun, for that being one of the loss conditions. As well, there is a flood that is happening across your player board going from left to right, and you've got to keep the canal clear of that flood as you go along, or else that's another way that you can lose the game. And so you're having resources that you have to manage, and you're doing a lot of resource conversion. You are playing cards out of your hand that are multi-use. You can play them for immediate effects. You can play them for long-term benefits. You can tuck them under your board for things that you get during a harvest phase, which is at the beginning of every round when you're getting different resources. There's a bit of a story element to it, although it's not a very heavy story element to it. I absolutely adore this game. It's just special. This is a game that, again, I say this a lot, but this game feels like it was kind of made for me. It has everything that I like in a solo game. I've read reports of people that say, well, once you know this one strategy, then the game becomes inconsequential. Well, you know what? I haven't found the strategy. I don't want to know about the strategy if that's even true. I just know that I've had a really fun time with Legacy of You, and that's why it's my number 1 solo game of 2023. All right, that's going to do it for me. Let's keep this winter spectacular rolling.